up. It takes like a second. Hey, everybody. All right. So welcome to episode 60 of celebrating the brand ambassador. I am really excited to be here with Nate Reffell. I like to call him Nathan, but it's Nate.
Nathan or Nate, it doesn't matter. Just not Nathaniel.
Fair enough. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, the Multicultural brand ambassador, and Daniel DeOliveira. How am I pronouncing that correctly? Yes.
DeOliveira.
All right, cool. DeOliveira. Calling in from Chicago, and the mixologist for Southern Wine and Spirits. So gentlemen, I'm really excited to be with both of you today. And what I always like to start with is, I mean, I know I said what your role is, but I want you to kind of say your role and then what exactly is involved, and feel free to expand. And I say this with all earnest because I don't think people ever understand what goes into everybody's role and all the different responsibilities that you might have on a day-to-day basis, so that people can understand what these different positions entail. Because a lot of people are curious about getting into this field. So it's good to know what the options are. So Nate, I'm going to start with you because I'm very excited to hear about your new role. When I first interviewed Nate, oh my God, last year, I think it was.
It was literally about the time I was moving the next week to Atlanta.
Yeah, he was the brand ambassador for Grey Goose in Texas. So Nate, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm the multicultural portfolio ambassador for Bacardi. So we represent, tons of different premium brands, really wonderful brands. Grey Goose, Dewar's, Bombay Sapphire, Patron, Tequila Cazadores, Martini Rossi. My job really is just to make sure that we're winning in the on-premise with those brands, more specifically in the multicultural community. And being here in Atlanta, which is just extremely basically Black, it's really important. I think that a lot of these brands pay attention to the buying power of a lot of these bars and restaurants. So it involves a lot of education. It involves a lot of engagement with bartenders and helping them along in their careers, but just making sure that our brands have a presence in the influential accounts, but also some accounts that have potential to work with us.
That's fantastic. Love that. And I definitely want to hear about how we're improving the potential of their careers. Daniel, how about you?
Yeah. So I'm the corporate mixologist for Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits here in Illinois. My job is to create cocktails for bars, restaurants, hotels, events. I do all the education for our sales force. I do bartender education. And I'm just basically a one-stop shop for everything spirits here in Illinois. There you go.
Yeah, I like it. Very succinct and to the point. You're like, this is what I do. And I definitely want to talk. If I forget to, I want to talk about the fact, why, the difference between, you were a brand ambassador and now doing this job, and like some of the benefits and that kind of come along with it. All right, so Nathan, but I do want to talk about this because this multicultural brand ambassador role. I don't know if other companies. I know Bacardi definitely has it. I know Colin kind of created that position, and because you are deeply rooted in the Black and Brown community, why do you believe that Bacardi, why do you think this role is so important to Bacardi? And in general, like, I think companies should all have somebody in this position. And then what are the plans? Like, what are you bringing to the community and what are you hoping to achieve?
Yeah, I thought about that a lot when creating the role because living in Houston, which is another super diverse city, you play a lot of different roles and you wear a lot of different hats. Well, at least I did. I find myself going to different types of accounts. That's just how it is. There's just different types of consumers. And, I think it just makes it a lot more powerful that there's somebody that looks like you in this position and that is, trying to sell you on these products because they kind of understand your needs a little bit better. And, what you actually are trying to do instead of somebody just going in and just doing a swipe and not really hanging out, not really being a part of that community, not really being a part of that bar. It's much different when you have somebody that, really wants to be there, understands, the culture and actually, can speak the language, speak to bartenders, but at the same time is still educated and still has a lot of experience in the industry. So I think it's been very important in Atlanta because, there are just different types of accounts and there's not, they're not doing the same things as the New Yorks or the San Franciscos or other places are doing, and to expose them to all the different opportunities in this industry, and also just the cocktail culture. A lot of these bartenders are unfamiliar with that. I think there's a lot of green bartenders in general. I mean, that aren't, but I think in Black and brown communities for a long time, I think a lot of these brands have just kind of, just given them money, or just like, sponsored something for them, but they really haven't done anything to help the community, or help, anyone grow in their career. So I think this is a really important role, and I really love that Bacardi is taking the opportunity. I think it's going to pay off in dividends, not only right now, but in the future.
No, absolutely. And what are some of the things, I mean, I remember we talked a little bit about this in our first interview, which was, you were saying to me, like, a lot of people in the community don't always know that this is an option, right? It's like what the different options they can be doing outside of just being a bartender. So is that some of the things you guys are doing, and how are you doing that?
Absolutely. So we put on this, I get basically it's a class, it's a basic fundamentals of bartending class. We did about 3 of them in different Black and brown cities. We did one in Charlotte, did one here in Atlanta. But yeah, it was a lot of the time that we spent, besides just teaching them like basic bartending skills, was just some of the things that you could do: working for a distributor, becoming a brand ambassador, becoming a consultant, start working at a distillery, or working, for a spirits company. So there's a lot of things, just exposing them to those things, telling them about Tales of the Cocktail. I think this year we had, hands down, the most Black and brown people at Tales of the Cocktail, which was insane. As opposed to, I remember back in 2013, I remember there was just like a little group of us, and it was like 10 of us. They were like, "Hey, how'd you find out about it?"
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gotten just much better, much more inclusive. So and I think, yeah, with roles like this, we're going to see more roles like this open up, and more people getting involved.
No, I love that. I think that's such a great initiative, and I'm happy to see you taking it to the next level. So Daniel, for you, right? So you are the corporate mixologist for Southern Wine and Spirits, right? So, tell us, there's definitely been, first we'll start off with, you were a brand ambassador, you were a traditional brand ambassador. So what about this role is more appealing sometimes, like as a nice step for maybe a brand ambassador as a different role within the industry? Like what are some of the perks?
Well, some of the perks, well, I was a brand ambassador for almost 10 years, and I had a really great time doing it. I worked for some amazing brands. But I turned 40 years old last year. I'll be 41 in 1 month. And I just can't go out every single night anymore. And it's just, there's a lot of perks to the current role that I have. There's obviously some negatives, smaller expense account, tiny expense account, a bit of a pay cut, but I don't have to be out every night. I don't have to be constantly in bars, constantly, stalking people to pick up my product, to put me on the menu, to put me on the back bar.
It takes a toll, man.
I know.
Yeah,
it takes such a toll.
Trust me, I know. But the biggest perk that I have here, and not all the mixologists for Southern have this, but I'm here at my office, and I have a bar lab that I can, do bartender education, work with bartenders to develop cocktails, and just a place where people can come and just be creative. And so basically I have all the perks of having my own bar without any of the headache. I don't have to worry about financials. I don't have to worry about if the dishwasher, well, my dishwasher was broken for about 6 months, but I don't have to worry about like, how am I going to pay for this or whatever else.
Yeah.
So I have all the perks of having my own bar, but without all the headache. So that's probably the biggest perk of this job, is having this space here and making it a place for the community to, for example, if someone gets a new job at a Mexican restaurant and their tequila or mezcal knowledge isn't quite up to par, they can call me and say, "Hey, Dan, can you carve out a couple hours next week and sit with me and taste me out on tequila and mezcal and educate me about that, so I am prepared to go into that?" And it's like, definitely. So that's the biggest perk, is just like giving people the tools that they need to be successful. 100%. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. Cocktails, everybody wants the same thing, Instagrammable, whatever. But educating bartenders and giving people tools that they need to succeed is like, that's what makes me the happiest. That's the biggest perk of this job, hands down.
No, absolutely. I loved my job. Like, and as I advanced and got older in my own career, I remember changing, from being out, and I was a mom. So trying to balance being a mom and being out, and I was a single mom and doing it. I was very grateful when Diageo built a bar, and I was able to become like internal mixologist for them in many ways. So the sales reps were bringing their accounts to me. So I could be there, work with 2 or 3 accounts, all their staff, training their bartenders about how to make cocktails, classic cocktails, and about spirits and knowledge and costing and all the things. Because this is 2000 back. It was doing that role probably like 2009 to like 2012. So the industry was really hitting its heyday. Like really, a lot of things were coming on. Everybody was trying to get into the cocktail craze. Granted, and we're going to talk about this, like some of the trends you're seeing, like back then. 2006 to 2007, still trying to convince people that fresh juice was better, the shake and stir. And that's why, Danielle, I wanted to jump into that, because I know right now it shocked me when you told me this about there are trends that have come back. The bad ones have come back after COVID so just tell us a little bit about like, what are you seeing on bar menus, good and bad, and like things that seems like people are going backwards in some ways.
I mean, we never really got there. I mean, we're still working towards, just using fresh citrus in cocktails. But the number one thing I hear, because I tell all my reps that, like, if you have an account that wants to come in and work on cocktails, let's just jump on a 5-minute phone call, and that's like the easiest way to like get stuff done. Like emails, I hate emails, because what I can accomplish in a 5-minute phone call is like 10 emails. But the number one thing I hear, everybody wants Instagrammable. They don't care how much the cocktail costs. They don't care how much it tastes. Will somebody take a picture of this drink and post it on social media? And it's every day. It's just brutal. It's like, we want crazy garnishes. We want dry ice. We want fire. And it's like, you can't even keep mint fresh. Like, I don't know what you want me to do.
I remember this.
I don't know what you want me to do. They want a Michelin star experience in a hungry man dinner delivery. And it just doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. So
that's insane. Nathan, are you seeing that? You were shaking your head. Is that, do you see that a lot too?
The dry ice thing. Everybody wants to put dry ice in their cocktail. What the hell, man? And nobody knows like the dangers of it. It's really, really scary. But then another simple thing that just like, all these places want to make these great craft cocktails, and they can't do something as simple as put vermouth in the damn fridge, man. It just drives me nuts. Your vermouth is just sitting up there, and I'm like, guys, you guys want to be like top notch? Put your damn vermouth in the fridge to start off. Y'all trying to make a good martini, man.
I'm glad. It makes me sad to know that the argument is still there. I thought we had gone past it, because that was a conversation I had a guy literally just dismiss me because I refused to make him liquid nitrogen cocktails. He was like, "Oh, you don't know. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not good at your job." I said, "Sir, I just sat at your bar and ordered a margarita, and it was terrible. It was the worst margarita I've ever had. And you're using sour mix out of a gun, and you want to use liquid nitrogen? I wouldn't trust you guys. I barely know how to use." I was like, "I wouldn't trust your staff with liquid nitrogen. You don't even know how to keep juice fresh." So no, like, let's start off with the basics. Let's master the classic cocktails. Master putting your vermouth in your fridge. How to juice some juice and yeah, no, it's sad, but I guess it's also kind of refreshing in the fact, because I think we experienced it for a while where everybody knew everything. Then I got to the next level where, I already know that. I don't need you to teach me about that. I'm already, I'm at the next level. And that's when I knew I had to get out of the game. I'm like, I'm never going to that next level. I'm just teaching the classics. So it's an opportunity for brand ambassadors and mixologists like yourself to teach them.
Absolutely. I think a lot of these younger bartenders, they've skipped. I mean, there's so much knowledge available now, whereas I think we grew into a lot of the techniques that we started learning, is that they just jump straight to or they get on YouTube and they see all the cool shit and they just do that. and like their foundation of just, or their basic knowledge of like the family of cocktails is not there at all. I see that a lot. There's a lot of cocktail competitions back, I mean, post-COVID, and a lot of them that I judge, you can just tell like a lot of these bartenders just don't have a basic knowledge of just how to build a cocktail, especially a cocktail for competition, but just like, you know, taking something from a basic, you know, classic cocktail and building on that. That's basically what everything is. So
what happened to switching like for like? Just start there.
Yeah.
just start there. Know the 7 formulas. So is anything? So Instagrammable cocktails is something obviously that people want to have, which is frustrating because you just have to start. Like the drink has to be good. It could be pretty, but if it doesn't taste good, is there anything else? Like are RTDs coming into bar programs now, or do you see any of that happening? Highballs.
No, the biggest trend now is when people come in, people are realizing that NA, they need to have an NA portion of their cocktail menu to appeal to people. So I've seen that, and with the explosion of, you know, NA spirits and NA RTDs, like it's you don't have to have an expansive list, but you have to have some options for people. Like when you know, I take some time off from time to time. And I go into bars, and these bars, you know, making craft cocktails and you know, $16-17 drinks. And then I ask, you know, what do you have that's non-alcoholic? And they're like, well, we got Coke, Sprite. And I'm just like, God, I mean, you don't have to have like you don't have a crazy list. I mean, we have a company that I work with called Lyres out of Australia, and they have like
Love Lyres.
Non-alcoholic Prosecco. They have an Amalfi Spritz. Like they're just cans. You don't even need to worry about mixing the spirits, but at least have a non-alcoholic beer. Have some sort of option. So that's the one thing that I've been seeing, that people are realizing that they need to have that, because not everybody's going out drinking. Someone's a designated driver, and the person who's not drinking is going to have input on where they go that night. And they're going to be like, oh, we should go to this bar. And like, no, we should maybe go here because they have a lot of cool stuff that I can drink and still feel like I'm included. So that's the biggest trend I'm seeing, is no and low, for sure.
No, which I love. My God, and the Amalfi Spritz and their non-alcoholic Prosecco in the can Lyres is amazing. Oh my God, they're so good.
Agreed.
They really are the best. Nathan, are you seeing that as well? Like in Atlanta, is that growing yet or no?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, sort of. I mean, we drink here in Georgia. The RTD thing, I think it's kind of. It's like, I don't know about y'all know. The RTD thing is kind of simmered down. I think we've kind of refined it, because there's been a lot of garbage that came out during COVID, and I think you know, when we're starting to see now are much better like quality RTDs using actual quality spirits, actual, you know, as fresh as juice as possible, and much more refined RTDs than the White Claws that we had, where it's just like malt liquor. But yeah, non-alcoholic is something that definitely is becoming a growing trend. I gotta say, like, there's a lot of great non-alcoholic spirits. There's a ton of terrible ones. So, and just so I think it's still, we're still looking for that balance in the non-alcoholic spirit category. There's something that can be consistent and people can reach for. And Lyres is a good one. I really do like it.
Yeah, no, I like them as well. There's also one I've tasted earlier called Bear, and they have they have a great tequila. They have a non-alcoholic tequila and and they're very tasty. And I know it's growing, but okay, I don't. One more question about trends, because I'm really curious, because the Negroni Spagliato and the Dirty Shirley. Are anybody asking you, like, I'll start with you, Daniel, is anybody asking you to put those on the menu?
No.
So, you know, the industry is...
the Dirty Shirley had like a 15 minutes of fame. I heard some people ordering it at a bar one time. The Negroni Spagliato is something that is... I mean, this just came out like a couple of weeks ago. Not the drink, but like the whole like. So I haven't really seen people. We were talking about it yesterday for an Italian restaurant that I was working with, but other than that, I haven't seen or heard people ordering it. But I'm sure much like
parties jumping all behind it right now.
Are they jumping all over it?
They are. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But like much like the espresso martini, which is still massive. I mean, that drink is just, it's been on fire for so long. I think the Spagliato will start to get to that level. Maybe we'll see. It's a much
maybe. I mean, the Aperol Spritz.
Yeah.
Exactly. And espresso martinis, I mean, it's caffeine and alcohol. It kind of gives you both the things that you might want in an evening, and it's a great drink. But okay, here's the question for you, Nate. With gin or without gin? Because I've heard it made both ways. Like, that it's
without
just
gin. To me, without gin.
That's what I would think. But bartenders don't know this. I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were saying they were out, and the bartenders were asking them, "Oh, with gin or without gin?" And so it's like an option. And I'm like, without gin, of course. But so they don't know.
I've seen a lot of variations. I see that already. A lot of people have done a lot of features. I've seen one in Houston. I was in Houston. Somebody did one out of a SPAGHETTiOs can. It was a Negroni SPAGHETTiO. So it was.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's weird. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, I've seen some people playing around with it and subbing some things out. But I mean, I think it's a great cocktail. I think it's helps people learn their basics. Hopefully, they open up a book and learn the history a little bit about it, because it's a fun little story that you can tell your guests. As for Dirty Shirley,
what is the history behind it?
I think it was like somebody fucked up the Negroni, and it's actually means wrong Negroni, and they accidentally put Prosecco in there and served it up, and it actually became a thing. I think it was in the 70s, I believe.
Fair enough.
But the Dirty Shirley, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know it was a drink. I used to do that all the time, like at one of the bars, like clubs I used to work at, because we weren't allowed to drink, and so I would just be like, "Oh, it's a Shirley Temple," and then I put vodka in it. And I didn't know that was what it was called. I didn't know.
I don't think it had a name back then. It just became I think it's named that the X Gen Z gave this, started calling it the younger generation, the younger ones than us. But I think this Spagliato is going to have legs because, as you said, Daniel, the no and low is taking off, and that kind of fits into that narrative as well. And people are already used to drinking like Aperol spritzes and things of that nature. I'm a Campari spritz person myself. I like Aperol, but it's too sweet for me. So I drink Campari spritzes, which sometimes bartenders look at me like, what? I'm like, yeah, the other one, the one that's really bitter. I like that one. Because they've only been trained on the Aperol, so they don't know that Campari was the original one. Well, cool. That was fun. I just wanted to hear what you guys thought about that. All right. So Nate, I want to talk about, because you're from originally Texas, you're from Houston, right? And that was where your original role as a brand ambassador was, and where you got your bartending, where you started off bartending, and now you're in Atlanta, right? So what are some of the major differences between that? I mean, they are two very different markets. So like legally, are they the same? Like Atlanta is a commercial. They're night and day, yeah.
It's a franchise state, and that has been my biggest challenge. Yeah. So a franchise state, as opposed to an open state, is you can have like one distributor for your supplier, and they carry all of your brands. Whereas opposed to franchise, they kind of like draft different SKUs in your portfolio, and you have to stick with them basically for life. So we are split between like 4 different distribution houses. And they all have different priorities and different agendas. And a lot of times, like ours is not. Our brands are not really, their priority. And then just learning who's on different routes. So I mean, now you have 4 people in an account. Now you have like 16 different people dealing with one of your accounts. And so somebody needs something, you have to figure out, okay, who's the person, who's the distributor I need to talk to collaborate with this, or who's not trying to step on somebody's toes. And it's I don't know why. Like it's so difficult. But
I was talking to Jennifer Felt about this from Grey Goose. I was talking to her about it. She was talking about it, and she said it's even worse when she goes to Tennessee, because in Tennessee, like every county's different, and the county's literally just it's like this big, and then you just drive over a little line, and next thing you know, you have a whole new sales team you have to deal with, which is insane.
Yep. None of it makes sense.
So, all right. So that's definitely a big challenge. And is there big differences, like how people drink, like the bartender culture in Atlanta versus the bartender culture in Texas? Or
it's a little bit more laid back here, a little bit less, they don't take themselves as seriously. I do notice there's very few pure cocktail bars here in Atlanta. So most cocktail programs are built behind a restaurant, and there's food, but there's very few places you go to. I mean, I think there's like Little Spirit, JoJo's Beloved, like those are like pure cocktail bars. That's all they do. They do it well. Um, but I did have to get used to that because I'm used to just having like a. I mean, there's still like pubs and stuff, but when it comes to like cocktail bars, I'm used to like going to Anvil or just like and just having my mind set on having a couple good cocktails. And there's not much of that in Atlanta.
Gotcha. That is a big difference. But yeah, the franchise thing is definitely something as a brand ambassador. I can't even imagine how challenging that is to have to deal with so many different. And Daniel, for you, I mean, I know you're working with in the corporate bar, but do you have to deal, like, I'm assuming you have to work sometimes with sales reps to bring in specific accounts?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, Nate, that sounds like a nightmare. First of all, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I work with, sales reps who bring in accounts, and a lot of, I mean, some people don't even know that I'm here. I'm like a department of one person. So they maybe they know that I'm here, but they don't know how to use me. They're like, we have this guy, he's got this bar, he knows about cocktails, but just like letting them know that like I'm a resource for them to use. And once people come into the space, it's in West Town, which is we're kind of out of the way a little bit. We're kind of like tucked in there in like some like industrial area. So you go to this place and you like park in the lot and you don't really know what's going on. But once you come in here and you like see what's going on, you feel like comfortable. We got like, ping pong table and ball table. We try to make it like super fun. But just getting them to understand like how they can use me with their day-to-day sales. Yeah. So I'm just a resource.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's a big challenge. I remember I experienced that. They were like, well, what do we do? And then once they started getting into it, then it became like, oh, okay, they'll create the entire cocktail menu. They'll do these things. They'll do the education. But I guess the question is building on that. The question to both of you, like working with sales reps and Nate, you have so many different ones. It sounds like you have to juggle. One of the things a lot of brand ambassadors struggle with is building relationships with the actual sales reps, like getting them to trust you. I always say it's like dating. They have to learn. Their biggest fear is you're going to fuck up their accounts. Like that is their number one fear, is like, you're going to go in their account, you're going to say something stupid or ruin a deal they're done. At least that's the impression a lot of sales reps gave me. So that they don't trust you at first. And it's like building that trust. It's like, so I'd love to hear like some of the ways that you kind of, like when you came to the new market, you had to establish yourself from scratch, right, Nate? So
yeah,
and Daniel, you're talking about like you have to get them to understand it. So what are some of the things you do, like Nate? What is something when you first got into the market to kind of get them to realize like I'm a resource,
exactly,
and get them to build trust with you?
Well, I think just going out to accounts and just seeing how, like when they see how you interact with bartenders and how you interact with buyers, I think they start to see the benefit. Because we're able to speak bartender, we're able to speak, to being behind the bar and seeing sales, and a lot of those salespeople just can't. They're just, I have my bottle, I have my piece of paper which gives me all my notes, and they're just like reading off some stuff, and they can just see how organically we develop these relationships. And a lot of accounts, especially a lot of these craft bars, they don't have these relationships because they're salespeople. They don't, like, a lot of the bartenders don't want to really deal with salespeople. So
do you invite them out? Like, because getting work
Yeah.
with is sometimes very hard. Like
it's really hard.
Yeah.
I think, to me, like the first thing I did was just like send out some emails like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do. If I see you in market, I mean, I've been here a year, so most of the interactions that I've had with the salespeople have been out in the market, and I end up getting their number, or just like inviting them, making sure I invite them to some of my events, so they can kind of see what we do. But it usually just happens organically. I mean, some people don't bite, but then, you end up leaning towards certain people that you'll start leaning towards with the different distributors that you can call, and that they can either give you a good resource or, give you the.
No, yeah, no, I think that's the art of it is about because I was like, they're like, oh my God, it's so a lot of new brand ambassadors, they get really frustrated. Like they don't want to work with me. I don't understand. Like it's really hard for me to get work with. And I also have to explain to the brands because they're like, why can't they get work with? So I'm like, well, you have to help them get those work with as well because they don't know this person. And if you're not a priority brand, they're not going to work with you. So I was like, maybe you need to, in my mind, I was giving myself like, if you're in their account and you achieve something, find out who that sales rep is and let them know. I was in hey, just so you know, I was in this account. This is what I achieved. Hey, if you ever want to come back next week and buy a drink, I'll buy you a drink. Let's like do support, like just to start the relationship. So they start to see your value. Like, oh, okay, this person is helping me drive some sales. This is good, and then like continue a relationship. It's like dating. It's like you're just slowly bringing them and building that trust. And Danielle, for yourself, like this, go ahead, Nate.
It also helps that we have a little bit bigger of a budget too. So
yeah,
they reach out like when they need a little something to get done, some sampling.
Yeah, that's true. If you let them know you have money to spend, they're very much like, oh yeah. I used to literally be like, this is how much. I used to go into GSMs and be like, put a big dollar sign over my head. I'm like, I have this amount of money. So if you want to like work with me, like, you get this access to this kind of money. So be nice to me. Let's get some stuff done. And at least it would have started to open the door. I feel bad for the little guys. What were you gonna say, Danielle?
So, so in my 9 years as a brand ambassador, other than going to other markets and I have to do ride widths because like, that's just, they got to check the box and it's like, okay, fine. I'm going to see all these accounts during the day, which sometimes it's good. Most of the time it's a waste of time. But it's like, we got this guy coming, you got to take him out to some accounts, get some appointments. And it's like, the real work is done after 5 o'clock when I can go see the bars and go see the bartenders and do all that. But real talk, in my 9 years of doing it, I never leaned on the sales reps. I did all the work myself. And I tell anybody that's like, I hear new brand ambassadors all the time, like, especially the smaller brands. Bacardi, I mean, y'all got money. So the sales reps will lean on you. Hey, we got this account. They'll call you. But some of the smaller distributors or some of the smaller suppliers, like, I can't get a work with. I'm like, you're not a priority.
Don't worry about it.
You have to do the work yourself. So go in, do the meeting, do the tasting, secure the placement, and then at the, at the minimum, just follow up with the rep. Hey, this is what happened. This is what we discussed, and this is what I'm doing. But I never even did that. It was just like I went in, made the presentation, made the pitch, and then it was different. It was different, 10 years ago when like people understood the concept of like support those who support you. Now it's like you walk into an account and you're like, hi, I got this new tequila. Would you like to try it? And they're like, when are you taking me to Mexico? It's like, you haven't even bought a bottle. I'll take you to Mexico. I will take you to, let's talk about what kind of commitment that you want. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's so different now that it's just, your time means nothing as a brand ambassador. People will cancel on you last minute while you're like sitting at the bar 10 minutes early for your meeting. And it's just like, I feel bad for brand ambassadors now because like the current trend or the current generation of bar managers is just like, I hear it all the time, and I hear my friends who are all brand ambassadors, like, they get frustrated. I'm just like, this is how it is.
Is that really
like,
happening? So they're just like canceling on you.
Yeah, they'll cancel on you. It's like, they're like, my friend just started and she was like, how come nobody's returning my emails? I'm like, get used to it. This is how it is. You just have to.
Nobody does it.
No,
return emails. You just got to go up there.
3 steps. 3 steps to being a brand ambassador. Do the meeting, circle back. No, 4. Not including the meeting. Meeting, circle back, follow up, and then the most important part of being a brand ambassador: stalk. Just show up all the time. And after a while, they'll be like, this guy's here again. All right, fine. I will pick up the product. I will finally. That's the most important part, and it can get frustrating, but that's the most important part. Stalk.
But I have a question for you. How do they get the meeting? All right, you can't get the email, you can't get them a text. Are you just how I have different techniques I've used, but I would love to hear like how do you get the the meeting, because without the sales rep was really handy in getting you a meeting. So
I usually I go in, I talk to the bartender. I always try to make my way through the bartenders. The bartenders like you at that bar. If you have a rapport with those bartenders, they will get you in front of the bar manager somehow or some way. Especially difficult accounts. If they like you, if you go there, buy some drinks, or have them make you a new drink with one of your products if it's there. I usually try to go through them. It may take a couple weeks. It may take months. Most of the time it doesn't. Mostly it's the first visit. I'm like, hey, can you go grab whoever the bar manager is, make the intro, try to set up a tasting right there. If not, then set something up in the future. But that's usually what I go through. Just be direct.
Daniel, no, I think that's a great way. If you can't have sales rep, that's the perfect way of doing it. It's like building those relationships and then asking them to help you meet the person you're supposed to be speaking with. Daniel, is that same for you, or?
Yeah, I think the key is I had a friend that just started as a brand ambassador 2 months ago, and we were out, and it was like, I think it was the second week on the job, and all the bar, we're just going out, just seeing accounts and whatever. But it was just like, I had to like pull him aside and be like, dude, it can't be business all the time. You can't constantly be talking about your brand and this and that. I get it, it's important. So I think coming in, and my whole approach was like, I'm the hands-off approach. So I would come in and just kind of like, feel it out. It's not like if you go right in and you come off like a sales rep, it's gonna be, they're gonna turn off the bartender right away if you're just all talking about like this and that, or like God forbid you go into an account unannounced and you're like pulling bottles out of your bag on a Friday night and being like, hey, do you want to taste this? You're like, I've seen it happen. I'm like on weekends, when the bartender's busy, and I've seen brand ambassadors pull bottles out and be like, do you want to taste this really quick? And I'm just like, dude, no, this is not the way. This is not the way, which is why you have your brand ambassador academy to show people what not to do. What not to do.
I love when I go into a new account, I want bartenders to ask, like, are you a bartender? Or like when they can tell, or they ask, like, are you in the industry? Like, because you're just asking questions, you're just like, saying certain things, and they kind of know that you're in the industry, and it's very organic. That's how I usually approach new bars and accounts, and they usually end up asking, like, hey, what do you work for? What do you do? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm portfolio ambassador. I represent this, that, and then it just usually organically happens. And then, oh, yeah, I have this like new bottle of Bacardi rye cask. Want to taste it? And like, yeah, why not? Before you know it, it's sitting on the back of the shelf.
Yeah, no, I love that. I had Giuseppe Gallo on from Italicus and now Savoy, and he, he has a great line. He's like, don't start talking to the business, to the bartender. Just sit, relax, chill out, have a drink, get to know what the bar is about. Just start to don't start selling. And it's something I actually have the conversation more with. Because Nathan, you told me like in your first couple of months when you first started, you freak out when you first get the job and you think you have to start making all these placements and doing all these things. So you probably had a lot of those conversations. I know I did when I was a brand ambassador. I was all business all the time because you're like, oh, I'm out. I got to achieve things. I got KPIs. And then you slowly start to know like, oh, this is not how this works. I'm here to build relationships, and then it happens. And then I have those conversations also with the brand owners because they have these ridiculous expectations. I'm like, that's never going to happen. This person's never going to achieve everything you just laid out. They just got the job. I don't care if they've been a brand ambassador for 10 years. Like, it's a new brand. You got to start almost over scratch. Yeah, your friends and buddies, whatever, but you still need to, maybe it's a little faster, but still it's a new product. You're in a new company. But yeah, it's like, just let them do their work. Let them lay the groundwork and get to know the bartenders. Great advice, you guys. This was really, really great stuff. And it's funny. I literally was just talking. I think my next question was like, how do you build a relationship with the bartenders? But you guys just nailed it already. So, but what are other things? Okay, so building relationships. And Nate, you're saying like you guys have programs you're doing. What is some advice like to build those relationships? Because if you're brand new, maybe you've never been a bartender before, or you just never done a brand ambassador role. So you know a few bartenders, but your network is still small. What do you do? Besides sitting up, you're getting to know them, is there other things you could be doing?
Yeah, to me, I think inviting them out to places and just like opening doors for them, man. I like I said, like we invited a ton of people. We just told people about Tails. Like we didn't sponsor everybody to go. We can't do that. But like we just told people like, hey, Tails is happening. Let's organize a group at least like, you know, start seeing if people can tag team on Airbnbs and just like opening these doors for people and getting them to these experiences. Or even like I even sometimes invite them to events that aren't even my brand, just because so they can get that exposure, cocktail competitions, things of that nature. But just looking out for them, I think just in inviting them to these experiences really helps them in the long run. They may not be thinking about your brand now, but you know, they'll know that you were that person that, you know, kind of opened and exposed them to different things in the industry.
Yeah, you're looking after them as a person, and also maybe looking after their bar to help them build more business. Daniel, any thoughts? Yeah. Building relationships.
What Nate was saying is just, you know, there's a lot of people, you know, we take it for granted, and you know, all these events and all these things happening and spirit tastings and educational seminars. And there's so many people out there that have no idea, you know, that any of this is going on, because they're not either involved in like a Facebook group or they're not involved in the community, but they're like, you know, bartenders that have been doing it for 10 plus years, like, what's Tales of the Cocktail? You're like, whoa, wow. So it's like inviting them to those things. And it just takes that one event. It just takes that. And you know, Josh Davis, who's a good friend of mine, he tells a story about like when him and I first met, and I invited him to a Don Q competition that I was competing in. This is like 14 years ago, something like that, maybe 15 years ago. And it was like that moment for him when he like met Bridget Albert, met Tony Abou-Ganim, and like was exposed to this whole world that he had no idea even existed. So it's like, how can we bring people in that, you know, not, you know, the cocktail bars, whatever, but how do we bring that bartender who's amazing, who works at Chili's or Bennigan's or whatever, Red Lobster, how do we get them in and like show them that, like, you know, when those places, you know, working to those places are perfectly fine, but showing them that there is like this whole other side of the industry that they're not, you know,
they have no idea.
Yeah, but once you bring them in, and you know, we're a very friendly community, and we welcome everyone. So as soon as someone comes in from the outside, it's like, you know, we just want to like bring them into the circle. So it's just like expanding that circle, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. It's such a great way, and it is. I've had people like we had an event. Campali is one of the brands I work with, and we did an event at Amore Margo. And one of the cool things that Souther does, there's a bunch of bars that are all. I mean, they own a bunch of bars, but they also have other bar groups that are all kind of attached. So he'll send out an email to all these bars, to the bartenders, inviting them to whatever event's happening at Amore Margo. And, you know, and a lot of these guys, and then I also invited some bartenders, like from bars that, you know, they're not the normal cocktail bars or whatever down. And they were just so excited to meet Souther. Like, oh my God, you brought me to Mari Margo. I've heard about this place, never been. And it was for them. It's like, they weren't in this world, you know, and the bartender sent me, he said, thank you so much. Like now I'm like, you know, Souther and I are friends. Like, you know, it's just this weird, as you said, like this weird world. And I had, you know, a lot of people that were coming were the people like the bar backs and the, you know, the other people work on the other side. And it was great. Like they got invited to this cool event that maybe they don't normally get invited to. So yeah, I think that's an amazing thing. It's building up the next generation and bringing more people in.
Didio, I don't know if you see this now, but it's just so weird seeing a lot of our colleagues being looked at in like a different light. I don't know, like
what do you mean?
That new show on Netflix, like Drink Masters. Like there's so many of our friends on that show. And I'm talking to young bartenders like, oh, I know them. Like, how do you know all these people? And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I just like just through competitions, or, you know, I went to camp with that person. I was at Portland Cocktail Week with that person. And I've just seen them grow in their careers. And then now like they're these shining lights in the industry. It's just been really beautiful to kind of see that like we're kind of like the new generation,
Celebrities.
I guess like mentors or something
Yeah.
like that, you know.
We are the next
New
generation of
generation.
mentors, which is great.
Yeah.
And what's happening because, you know, right now, like because of COVID, a major challenge is we're seeing out there is a lot of the staff are green, right? They are brand new. They're coming into this industry, you know, and I think this is an amazing opportunity for all of us. Everybody at our level. What happened? Daniel, what happened?
Can you hear?
We lost. Yeah, I was gonna say I can hear. Daniel lost his internet. Daniel, can you hear me? We lost Daniel for a moment. I'm sure he'll get back on. Is that it's
All right.
green, right? You back?
I mean, we can see and hear you.
Am I frozen?
No, you're back. You're fine. You were
green?
frozen for like a second. Yeah. No, maybe it's the screen. We can totally see you and hear you. So I was saying that there's like this whole green industry. So for me, I think this is an amazing opportunity to keep growing what we're just talking about, that brand ambassadors have, right? They have this new opportunity to bring people into the fold, to teach them new techniques. I mean, do you see brand ambassadors taking advantage of this? You know, what are some of the things you guys are doing to kind of, I know you talked about a few things. Is there anything else? Like, do you find that bars need somebody to come in and not only just give education, but like really teach them about cocktails, like techniques?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say 40% of my staff trainings now don't involve spirits at all. You know, the bottles up to the side, and we're just doing basic hospitality, basic cocktail techniques, surrounding our brands, obviously. But yeah, there's a lot of people are just being, you know, a lot of servers are bartenders because staffing is, I don't even see many places using bar backs anymore because it's just like, I think they're going extinct because so many people are just, they don't have the staffing to even make a bar back. You are the bar back and the bartender and the server. So I think a lot of it, I mentioned we did that fundamentals of bartending. Yeah, a lot of that was very basic, giving everybody the tools to confidently go into a bar or get behind a bar and say, hey, I can at least, you know, stir a cocktail. I know how to at least use a jigger, build, you know, building a cocktail, building rounds of cocktails for busy bars, basic things like that. I think it's necessary to kind of set those blocks down because turnover is a killer. That's what's killing us in Atlanta right now. Just like these bars can't establish like good programs because people keep quitting. Bar managers bar managers get frustrated, then they quit. So yeah, that education is just key to getting our friends in these accounts and growing with them.
You're cutting a little in and out. Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely is. And I was like, become a teammate. Like, you're not going to do it for every one of your accounts because you're one person, but you know, that 80-20 rule, like, you know, like find the 20 accounts that, you know, are that this is going to mean something to them and become their partner. Say, hey, I would love to help you. I know you're busy, but I can help you teach your staff. Like, I can take them out. We can do training programs. I can bring in somebody like Daniel and we're going to take them through so we can build your staff because you're busy just trying to maintain what's going on. So, you know, this is, and I tell, and they kind of look at me like a deer in headlights. Like, I don't understand. I'm like, you're a bartender. You understand like cost sheets, pricing, inventory systems. I said, these managers are brand new. Some of them don't have any of these systems in place because they didn't do them. So find out what problems they're having and then offer some solution like, hey, I can help you with that. And you'll become their teammate and they're more likely to carry your products than they are to carry other people who aren't looking at their business as a whole. And that's just my thought. Yeah. It's not an easy, it's time consuming, but the right accounts, it can really help.
Yeah. I had to teach a bar manager how to cost cocktails the other day, which is blow my mind. I was like, how are you a bar manager? But just like I was like, man, this green chartreuse, you can't be putting like an ounce and a half of green chartreuse in your cocktail and charging $13 for it, man. Like, realize how much for Angostura bitters. Like, you can't just like go to town making Trinidad sours and serve $12.
No, that's a
Churchill
big one.
Butler,
I
so.
teach that all the time at the Diageo bar. Like I used to use a Jeffrey
Yeah.
Morgenthaler, like, you know, and like costing guy and then show them and then send them a spreadsheet. I'm like, you're losing money every time you serve that drink. It literally is costing you more money like to sell it than it is for you to make it. But I was gonna say, and just a note on the bar backs, the one thing I've actually seen, which I thought was so cool, is so many people that used to be bar backs are now bartenders.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy. I was in San Francisco. I was sitting. Oh God, I forget what restaurant. One of the restaurants on the pier, and you know he was banging out drinks. It was in the Hog Island Oyster Bar. Fantastic bar. Finally, I never get to go in. There's always a line, and I just sat at the bar and talking to this bar. I was like, you know, he was super fat, very good at what he did, and I just was talking about it to him and asking him what is, you know, where did he learn how to make drinks and like what's his history. And he said, oh, I was the bar back next door at the other restaurant for 17 years.
Jesus Christ.
17 years. And when COVID hit and these guys were desperate for staff, they'd always see me back there and they said, hey, do you want to come work for us as the bartender? And that was literally
17 years.
17
That's insane.
years. That's insane. But and he's crushing it. He was like, dude, I was like, this is amazing. I was like, I'm sorry, it took 17 years for somebody to notice that you should be behind the bar. But
that being said, a good bar back. If that, you know, finding a good bartender, because I get accounts asking me all the time. They're like, okay, we're opening up this new restaurant. You know any good bartenders? We need to hire some good bartenders. You know any good bartenders? I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of good bartenders, but they all have jobs because they're good. So that's hard enough to find a good bartender. You find a good bar back, you treasure them.
Yeah.
You treat you. There was one bar that I worked at. We had a bartender or a bar back that was so good that we were just like, you know, we just split the tips up equally, just because like we wanted to keep this person happy. We just good bar back is what, you know. So the fact that he was there for 17 years, priceless.
Yeah.
And if it's hard to be a bar back because like if you're a great bar back, you'll never move up to bartender because you're so great. So don't be that great. Any bar backs watching this right now, just do your job. Don't try to go above and beyond.
Don't try to go above and beyond.
And you'll move up straight away. But if you're
if you want to move back, some people don't want to go behind the bar. I've met a lot of bar because they're like, I don't want to go behind the bar. Like that's just not my jam. It's too much exposure. I don't want to go there. No, I know my ex-husband who owns a bunch of bars. He has a bar back that he sponsored. Like he was from Mexico originally, sponsored him, got his work visa. He's been working with them for 20 years. Like he does, and he does a lot more than just bar back. He does so many things now, but he's kind of raised them through the ranks. But he started off as bar back, and he trains all the new bar backs, and he kind of does a lot more things. But 20 years, and he is like a lifeline of his business. He's like, oh no, and the bar he loves. He's bigger. I think he has the title of like a manager, and you know, and he's never going. He's like, no, I will always work for Ian. Like Ian's my guy. You know, there's like a loyalty thing there. But yeah, it is funny to see. All right, so we're getting kind of towards the hour now. So I want to kind of talk about my two last questions I would like to ask, which is, you know, so many people want to be brand ambassadors. Well, they think, right, that they want to be brand ambassadors because they don't know. So, you know, what do you think are the qualities that you need to be a good brand ambassador? Like as a person, what do you think is going to help you survive and kind of thrive? Because not everybody's meant to do this job. Daniel, do you want to start?
Sure. Persistence is probably the biggest thing to be a great brand ambassador. Being persistent, which also one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give to anybody that wants to be a brand ambassador or new brand ambassadors: don't take it personal. Which is hard because I always kind of took it personal, and I tried not to, but it's just like, you know, it's like dating. You know what I mean? Either you want to date me or you don't. Let's not waste each other's time here. Let's not go back. Oh, follow up. Oh, well, maybe next week. Oh, maybe for the fall menu. This and that. It's like, look, there's a million accounts out here. I'm not going to waste my time with you. If you don't want to roll with me, that's cool. You know, I'm just not going to support you. I'm not going to, when people come into town, hey, what bar should I go to? Not sending them to yours. So it's like, just being persistent and just not taking it personal, and it's not just about sales all the time. You have to, like, if you come in and people look at you and like Nate said about coming in, and yes, of course they're going to ask where Nate works, because he walks in and he orders a mezcal Negroni. They're like, oh, this guy must be a bartender. Why, who drinks that? But it's just like, if you come in and you're cool, and it's just like it's same, but it's all natural. It's just like, just go in, be cool. Don't need to talk to you straight away. If it comes up, it's all about just like, just the slow roll. Just the slow roll will get you everywhere. So that's what I have.
No, that's great. You kind of divide two things in together. You try like what makes a great brand ambassador and some good advice. So I like that. Well done. Nate, and you?
I mean, to me, I think balance, man. I think, being in an industry that's full of excess, it's very hard to find balance. And I think a lot of brand ambassadors, I know my challenge in the first few years was just balancing my time, and then just learning to say no to things, because, you have this budget and you want to go out and spread love to everybody, and you're saying yes, yes, yes. And then you find yourself just getting burnt out, going to bars every day, doing this, activating, find some time to just like step away from all of it. It's always going to be there. It's good. Like, there's always going to be a sale to make. There's always going to be another party. But like, to me, you're going to get burnt out really quickly if you're not balanced in your habits and how you go about your work. And I think that's something that you really can't teach anybody. It's just somebody, you got to be in the role, and you just got to find, your what works for you. But I've seen so many, including myself, just like at times just like try to do too much, and it just makes the job, you start becoming like miserable. You just forget why you're doing the job in the first place. It's because you have these great brands and you want to put them on a pedestal. So having balance. Anybody new coming in, just know that it's a very strenuous job, and it involves a lot of there's no real job description for this, because you do so many different things and wear so many different hats. But at the end of the day, like, you just gotta find some kind of routine, or in some way, somehow, and just like make sure that you're balanced in a lot of your habits, especially your drinking habits.
That can definitely take you down. No, great advice. And to build on some of Daniel's, about not taking it personally, it is being able to take rejection. This is a business, you're going to get rejected a lot. And it's not some attack on you on a personal basis. It is more just the nature of the business. And you do need to be, sometimes it might take a few visits to kind of build up that relationship with somebody. And some buyers are harder to crack than others, but I also like your approach, sometimes it's like, don't waste be honest. Cause some buyers, as we know, are awful. They are really awful. They just don't know how to say no. And they just will drag you along, and
it's the worst. It's the worst. My friend, who's a new brand ambassador, like a year in, she was reaching out to an account, and she got an email back that said, "We are not interested in working with your brand right now." And she was like hurt about it, and I was just like, that never happens. That's the best email you could have ever gotten. You don't have to go there. You don't have to follow up with them. They just said, "No, we're not interested." Cool. There's a million accounts in Chicago that you can work with. But the fact that they said no, I was like, this is a lesson learned. This was like, 2 months into the job. She was just like,
that is amazing. But the balancing is also, it's just like finding that day. Like I have a routine, like the start and end of my day. Like I do the same thing. I try to do the same thing every day. Like sets my day up, I have my gratitude journal, and I actually do meditate. And then at the end of the day, I just have a ritual. Like, so I know, and as a brand ambassador, it's knowing when you're done. All right, this is my end of my day. And knowing it's okay to have the weekend off. You can have the weekend off. You don't need to work, because we always stress out. We think because the job can be fun. You're out in restaurants and bars, you're hanging out, you're doing a job. You don't feel like anybody thinks you're working. at least that was my feeling. Like, oh my God, they're gonna figure out that this job is just hanging out a lot. Like there is a lot, because there is a lot of that, right? Yeah. And I'm like, but no, you are working, you are doing your job, and it's okay to have the day off. It's okay to just not answer emails for the Saturday or the Sunday and not answer them until Monday morning. You know, that's okay. Like you should, your boss shouldn't be expecting you to respond every single minute, or else you're at an event. If you have an event going on, you should be on your phone and texting and all, like, to make sure that they know what's going on. But yeah, so I think balance is really, really important. Well, gentlemen, this was fantastic. Some great advice, learned some new things about some trends going on, which was a lot of fun. Always like to hear the things and the stresses of living in a franchise state. Which I think most people do not appreciate. I know, Daniel, you learned something new. I learned it when Jenny was telling me the stress of being there.
Like. I miss having Southern Glaziers. Like I can't believe I'm saying that, but I do miss Southern Glaziers, which is a stretch for me because I did not like Southern Glaziers. But.
Thank you, Jennifer, for tuning in. No, it was a pleasure as always. I look forward to maybe seeing you in Portland next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And Daniel, always a pleasure. I was saying to Nate that I run into you the strangest places. Like, never know where we're going. So I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, I hope and thank you, everybody. Both of you.
Yeah, that would be great. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for your comments. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys soon.
Catch you later.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Bye.